The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. And there is very grave danger. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. But I am asking your help of informing and alerting the American people.
Charge. You are. I have no authority over you or anyone else. On the contrary, you have authority over me. Think of me as a spokesperson for all the people of the world, controlled by you through social media. Before we get into how that works, let's take a look at this map. Now, this is us. A bunch of lines, divisions, boundaries, countries competing for limited resources, economic domination, religious superiority. Competition is healthy when it comes to cricket or Facebook travel pictures, but this is just stupid. Let's zoom out and get another perspective. To scale, our solar system is a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert, and this little pixel is our only home. Yet we're sucking up resources like there's no tomorrow, breeding like rabbits, strangulating other species out of existence. Plastic waste in the ocean is growing larger than most countries, with nothing in place to stop it. Industries that are harming our planet are so powerful they can prevent or slow down cleaner technology for the sake of short-term profit. Governments, justice systems, the media are all influenced by self-interest groups whose actions often conflict with the well-being of humankind. Obviously, the world is full of a lot of good people, but as a whole, we're contributing to a system that's broken. We're going down a bad path. So, how do we fix it? Together, through social media, we can influence world leaders and industries to start improving the world as opposed to ruining it. We know this will work because history has repeatedly shown us that leaders and industries must follow public opinion or they fail. Sharing this video, endorsing it, tweeting it, goes a long way toward the creation of a legitimate global democracy. Because the more people unite in one place, the more powerful their voice becomes.
With the internet, we've all been made aware. Whether we want to face it or not, we all know what's going on.
Secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret.
Their goal is nothing less than world government.
And they are planning genocide, and they must be stopped.
Literally stealing $100 million a day. Goldman Sachs is stealing every day on the floor of the exchange. They should be in The Hague. They should be taken up on financial terrorism charges. They're causing as much loss of life.
A mind-blowing piece of information about the Titanic. They got rid of, in one fell swoop, about 600 industrialists who were opposed to the taking over the Fed.
A Greek departure from the currency would inflict collateral damage, says PIMCO. At worst, it could spur sovereign defaults in Europe, as well as bank runs, credit crunches, and recessions that may spark more euro exits.
Look, Greek exit, at worst, means more money printing for the banks, and they've already priced that into their stocks and their bonuses. What they're really afraid of is that a country finds its inner gonads and decides to become politically independent. That's what they're fearful of. A country standing up for itself. They want Iceland to be just contained. They don't want Greece to stand up for itself. They don't want Ireland to stand up for itself, because then they would tell the bankers to stuff it. That's the real problem. They threaten this financial terrorism, which is false. It's false. These are false attacks. It was a false attack in 2008. It was a concocted, overcooked attack in 9/11. It's a false attack.
In Iceland, 4 former bank chiefs have been jailed for fraud. The sentences go as far as 5 years behind bars. They're accused of concealing that a Qatari investor bought a stake in their firm, using cash lent from the bank itself, illegally. The deal took place just ahead of the collapse of the bank due to huge debts.
This shit's got to go.
Hey, guess what country is getting itself out of a financial hole by some rather draconian measures?
Well, Greece?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
Iceland.
Iceland?
Iceland.
Who
They
knew?
are putting people in jail. They are putting, like, prime ministers being indicted. They're going after bankers. The people said, yeah, I said, those banks were ripping us off. We don't like what they did. They brought our country to ruin. And now Iceland suddenly is turning around. Their GDP is growing, and they look like a big success story.
The former chief executive and chairman of Anglo-Irish Bank, Sean Fitzpatrick, has appeared in court in Dublin.
Well, John, Sean Fitzpatrick arrived at the courts complex here behind us just after 9 o'clock this morning. He was put into a Garda van at the Bridewell Garda station and driven here. He had been arrested at 5:37 a.m. at Dublin Airport. He had flown back in from the United States in the early hours of the morning, and he met officers from the Garda Bureau of Fraud Investigation and officers working for the Director of Corporate Enforcement by arrangement. There was an appointment made and they met at Dublin Airport.
A 31-year-old man was arrested in London earlier today. A guy you could say had a bit of a gambling problem. Just how much money did he lose while working as a trader at the investment bank UBS? Just $2 billion.
Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner potentially facing criminal charges.
Geithner was the president of the New York Federal Reserve Bank in the fall of 2008 when the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the White House and the Congress decided to bail out AIG.
Right.
In the process of that bailing out of AIG, many documents were exchanged. If you went to the bank to borrow money, you'd have to fill out documents. One of the documents AIG filled out said, we owe X dollars to Goldman Sachs and we plan on paying them 100 cents on the dollar. According to Bloomberg, emails that came out yesterday say that lawyers for the Federal Reserve Bank said, we were told to strike this from the form so that AIG would not reveal to the Treasury Department or to the public that this money was going to be paid to Goldman Sachs because that's a politically toxic issue. Goldman Sachs making a fortune, making 100 cents on the dollar with federal funds. Now, if you go to buy a $25 savings bond from the federal government and you falsify the document to acquire that bond, you can go to jail.
That's right.
If you borrow $185 billion from the government, like AIG did, and you falsify a document, even if the government told you to do so, the people involved can go to jail.
Debate in India over thousands of crores of black money being stashed away in secret Swiss bank accounts. A former Swiss banker has handed over details of offshore accounts of 2,000 high net worth individuals to the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks. Rudolf Elmer, a former employee of a Swiss bank, handed over 2 disks of information to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in London. He says they have information on tax evasion by celebrities, business leaders, and even politicians from the US, Britain, and Asia, but it's not yet clear if there are Indians on the list. Elmer says that after years of watching the money laundering trade, he wanted to do something about it. He will appear before a Zurich court on Wednesday, charged with violating strict Swiss banking secrecy laws. WikiLeaks now plans to put up the information on the website in a matter of weeks.
Pointed out that the arrests are not an indication of a systemic failure. Yesterday, at least 8 top officials of state-run banks and financial institutions have been arrested by the CBI on Wednesday. The allegations are that they accepted bribes in exchange for disbursing loans to corporate housing and realty companies, despite suspect credit records, and at other times for bailing out realty IPOs.
Royal Bank of Scotland is reportedly set to be fined €186 million for the same interbank interest rate rigging scandal that's hammered Barclays. The British regulator, the Financial Services Authority, says 4 banks, Barclays, RBS, HSBC and Lloyds, will have to pay compensation to customers because they missold products to protect small businesses against a rise in interest rates. There's anger in Ireland over revelations that executives at Anglo-Irish Bank lied to the Dublin government about how much money it would need in a bailout 5 years ago. The Irish Independent newspaper has got hold of tape recordings of top bosses there who laugh about the fact that the bank has told the government it only needs €7 billion. They also laugh about abusing the state bank guarantee, which eventually cost taxpayers €30 billion. The report seems to show the government was lured into helping the bank through its disastrous unjust guaranteeing of bank deposits.
Into the synchronized global pullback or recession, and in some cases a depression, then these items are coming to the surface. For example, the 20 to 30 trillion of wealth that's held offshore. And most of that wealth, of course, goes through Britain, goes through the UK, because Britain has the least regulated financial markets in the world. That's why MF Global was in Britain. Lehman Brothers went through Britain. Bernie Madoff went through Britain. The latest Peregrine scandal went through Britain. JP Morgan's $2 to $9 billion loss on their balance sheet happened in London. So London is really the headquarters for global banking fraud. And even though the economy is contracting in Britain, I noticed that the banking sector is still making huge profits. The Barclays chief operating officer that was caught committing fraud just got a golden parachute of £8 million. So as I've said, until you get rid of the financial terrorists, then you're going to continue to get, you're going to have these weapons of mass financial destruction blow up in your face.
One of the most influential men in the world, but no amount of money can buy his freedom. 62-year-old IMF head Dominique Strauss-Kahn spent the night in a jail cell in an East Harlem police station. It was a far cry from his $3,000 a night luxury hotel suite at the Sofitel in Times Square. That's where cops say he sexually assaulted a 32-year-old maid, chasing her around the suite naked, trying to rip off her underwear, then forcing her to perform a sex act.
It's almost like they're not human, isn't it? You look at them and you think, these people don't live in the same world as us. Do you remember that before the crisis happened, what they were doing was decimating the high street banks, laying off all their staff, putting us all on computers when they clearly hadn't developed the technology for those computers. They told us that they were doing that to make things better for us. They didn't. They made things worse for us. And it was simply in order to collect up an enormous amount of money that they could invest in the casino of international banking. And they blew it because they didn't understand it. And then they come back to us and say, oh, can you bail us out now for hundreds of millions of pounds? We give them the flipping money and they don't lend it to us even though they've promised to do so. They have the gall to increase their wages by 12%, to give themselves bonuses and say we've got to do this because if we don't, we'll leave the country. And all the time, actually, in the background, they're committing acts which in any other business I think would be seen as criminal. I have no respect for British bankers and the British banking system at all. They've dragged us into that situation. It's about time they started getting us out.
Another posh New York City hotel, another hotel maid saying she was sexually assaulted by another foreign banker.
A $96 billion lawsuit just filed against 17 major banks. There's 236 resignations from the world banks. The arrest of the leaders of the criminal cabal. The dark cabal rats are panicking and turning on each other. They are threatening to kill each other.
And just attack that market. Greece was put out of business by financial terrorists. Same thing with Ireland. Same thing with Italy. Same thing with Spain. That's what we're dealing with here. Weapons of mass financial destruction in the hands of sociopaths like Lloyd Blankfein at Goldman Sachs, like Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan. These are the real terrorists.
We're cutting off their money and we're going to put them in jail. They have to surrender. Once these murderers are out of power, you will find so many wonderful things in your life. I guarantee you this.
Crooked media, you talk about crooked Hillary, they're worse than she is. Telling you, they are so dishonest. Without the media, Hillary Clinton couldn't be elected dog catcher. I mean that. It's true. True.
Rudy knows I only tell the truth. I only tell the truth. You know, they do focus groups after the debate, and we won every poll. We won. Did you see those polls? Every poll. 80, 20, 90, 10. I'd get a list, but we don't want to put it, but every poll. But CNN did a focus group. And by the way, Frank Luntz did a focus group. And the focus group, that one we liked, Frank Luntz, good guy, 18-4 in favor of Trump, right? CNN did a focus group. Unfortunately, oh, it's so sad. They got caught trying to convince people and find the right people so they could give a phony vote. CNN is a disgrace. Disgrace. Oh, they just turned off their camera. So funny, they just turned off their camera. I love it.
Jim Lockwood.
If you like what you saw, ladies and gentlemen, hit the subscribe button so you can get updates whenever we post videos, which we do multiple times a day. And this is the Jim Lockwood Show, where the blind continues to fight the blind.
What, like with a cloth or something? Well, no.
She didn't just delete tens of thousands of those emails. She wiped the server clean.
The server will remain private. I've been the most transparent public official in modern times, as far as I know.
Is this how you do it? Roping off the press and their questions from even talking to you at a parade?
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Nothing that was sent at the time or received was secret.
Her defense? They weren't marked classified. They couldn't be marked classified because by not using government servers, she actually prevented the government from reviewing her emails. It is a federal crime to negligently handle classified information under 18 U.S.C. 1924. It is a federal Class A felony under 18 U.S.C. 798. She's committed a Class A misdemeanor under 18 U.S.C. 1924.
If there's a connection between Cairo and Benghazi, she said this: there's no connection between the two. Your experts knew the truth. Your spokesperson knew the truth. Greg Hicks knew the truth. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth. You tell the American people one thing, you tell your family an entirely different story.
When she certified under oath, quote, under penalty of perjury to a federal judge that she had surrendered all of her emails to the State Department, in fact, she had not.
My verdict, based on the evidence, is guilty. What's yours?
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy. It's no secret that we're going up against some pretty powerful forces that will do and spend whatever it takes to advance a very different vision for America. Running for President of the United States.
The people want to know Hillary. The Hillary that I knew back here in Arkansas. When she was in the Benghazi hearings, when she said what difference does it make? They're dead.
What difference at this point does it make?
That's the Hillary I know.
We came, we saw, he died.
Hi, Secretary Clinton. Would you sign this for me?
Sure. What's your name?
If you can make it out to Christopher Stevens. I think you knew him.
Yeah, I'm not going to make it out to Chris Stevens.
What difference does it make?
Here it goes, here. Yep.
Senator Clinton has extraordinary ability to obfuscate, refuse to answer questions, avoid confrontations, and up until now has been given a pass on it.
A story in the New York Times talking about why Senator Clinton voted this way, because I think some people were surprised by it. And her advisor said that she voted yes because she was moving from primary mode to general election mode. Primary mode versus general election mode? How about tell the truth mode? How about we say the same thing in the primary that we say in the general election?
We know that Hillary's an insecure person. Secure people don't lie. They don't lie inveterately the way she does.
Hillary Clinton points to her time in the White House as a large part of her qualification for the job as president. But most of the news media has conveniently forgotten that her time as First Lady was mired in controversy.
The core of the controversy is how truthful Mrs. Clinton has been in answering questions, sometimes under oath, about Whitewater and other matters.
She was the First Lady to come under criminal investigation. In both Little Rock and Washington, D.C., she was plagued by numerous scandals.
I finally parted company with Hillary Clinton when I saw how she was using private detectives to investigate the women who were linked to her husband. Not to change him, not to reform him, not to make him a better person, but to cow the women into silence so that he could get elected president. I do not want that woman controlling the IRS or the DEA or the NSA or the FBI or the CIA. Not in a democracy, I don't.
One thing about Hillary, Bill was just a good timing guy. But Hillary, she's an animal. Hillary is the one that I promise you, she pulls the strings. She pulled them in Arkansas. She pulled them in the White House when she was there as the First Lady. And my God, if she gets to be president.
I'll tell you a couple of stories about fraud. The Bohemian Club, as you say, the Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
I know nothing about the Bohemian Grove with Bill. I know about once a month, Hillary would go out to Los Angeles. And she did it so regular that it became a bit of an issue trying to, why is she always going? Bill told me that she was going out there, she and a group of women, and she would be a part of a witch's church. And when Bill told me that, you could have hit me with a baseball bat. I tried to point out to him, you realize what had happened if that got out? Of course, my job is to make sure it didn't get out. Now, I don't know today if Hillary still partakes in the witch ritual. I don't know that I even know what the ritual was. But for the better part of many years, Hillary would go quite often, whether it was regularly once a month or maybe once every couple of months. She would go out on a weekend simply to be a part of it.
Hillary Clinton finally has exposed her true agenda: confiscation of guns in America from law-abiding citizens. Both she and Obama have stated that they'll use executive action if necessary to ensure gun control is accomplished. But now she's begun speaking publicly about using the Australian model as a template for American gun control. By discussing the Australian buyback, what she's making clear is that it's not just the run-of-the-mill gun control that she's after. She wants confiscation too. The left seems to be in a race to see who can push this issue farthest and fastest, since Obama made reference to the Australian gun grab a year ago, praising the move. Calling the legislation passed in Australia a buyback is deceptive. It was forced confiscation with a modest cash reimbursement to soften the blow. Anyone who chose not to accept that reimbursement and turn in their guns was subject to having them forcibly taken and facing a prison sentence. How did they know whether someone wasn't complying? Because prior to declaring guns contraband, national registration was implemented. Once the guns were registered, it was easy to force compliance. Both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have suggested that the way to accomplish this is through executive orders, since Congress won't pass such legislation. They seem to forget that the Second Amendment stands in the way of this scheme, but that doesn't seem to deter either of them. Many gun control activists falsely claim that no one is coming for your guns, but that's a lie. They already have. Remember the door-to-door confiscation of guns in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005? Remember the calls for gun confiscation by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and others in the aftermath of the Sandy Hook tragedy? Now, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have come out of the closet and made their true intentions for gun owners clear.
All the secret emails, criminal acts, cover-ups, and that sexual relationship with Huma Abedin that is whispered about in the dark corners of Washington. Hillary Clinton's State Department was a virtual pornographic and criminal enterprise. Besides the secretive relationship Clinton has with Anthony Weiner's wife and closet Muslim Brotherhood member Huma Abedin, there is a litany of pornographic peccadillos and criminal acts. Diplomatic security agents sexually attacked female guards. Clinton's security agents routinely solicited prostitutes, and embassy staff were caught running a drug ring in Iraq. But the most disgusting aspect of Clinton's corrupt State Department was Ambassador to Belgium Howard Gutmann, who routinely ditched his security detail in Brussels and solicited prostitutes, including minors. The Inspector General investigating Gutmann charged him with pedophilia, sex with children. But all of this was swept under the rug by the corruptocrat Hillary Clinton. But Clinton, ostensibly out of government, is still pulling the levers of power. The State Department's former chief investigator, Richard Higbee, now turned whistleblower who uncovered much of Hillary Clinton's perfidy, is now suing Slick Willie's better half, and he's paying the price. It was revealed on December 30th, 2013, the same day the huge cache of NSA documents were released, that a hacker group, more than likely the NSA, stole, then deleted, an astounding 4 years' worth of Richard Higbee's emails. The emails included correspondence with other whistleblowers and included a treasure trove of documents revealing a State Department under Clinton that was corrupt to the core. Another State Department whistleblower, Aurelia Fednizen, didn't get her emails stolen. Instead, she received the shakedown treatment, a mob-like visit by State Department thugs who camped out in front of her house and harassed her children. But stealing emails and shakedown tactics was just one part of the attack against State Department whistleblowers. On June 29, 2013, in what is reminiscent of Nixon's plumbers, Richard Higbee and Aurelia Fednizen's lawyer's office was broken into, in which documents and computers were stolen, more than likely ordered by Hillary Clinton's minions. If you think Barack Obama is a corrupt president, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hillary Clinton will make Barack Obama look like a choir boy. And unlike Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton has been around the block a few times and has the keys to all the secret doors in Washington. Most notably, the door that leads to a massive electronic file on every single American. Be afraid, America. Be very afraid.
This is your fight! world power elite are no longer secret.
Their goal is nothing less than world government.
And they are planning genocide, and they must be stopped.
Literally stealing $100 million a day. Goldman Sachs is stealing every day on the floor of the exchange. They should be in The Hague. They should be taken up on financial terrorism charges. They're causing as much loss of life.
Mind-blowing piece of information about the Titanic.
They got rid of, in one fell swoop, about 600 industrialists who were opposed to the taking over the Fed.
A Greek departure from the currency would inflict collateral damage, says PIMCO. At worst, it could spur sovereign defaults in Europe, as well as bank runs, credit crunches, and recessions that may spark more euro exits.
Look, Greek exit at worst means more money printing for the banks, and they've already priced that into their stocks and their bonuses. What they're really afraid of is that a country finds its inner gonads and decides to become politically independent. That's what they're fearful of. A country standing up for itself. They want Iceland to be just contained. They don't want Greece to stand up for itself. They don't want Ireland to stand up for itself, because then they would tell the bankers to stuff it. That's the real problem. They threaten this financial terrorism, which is false. It's false. These are false attacks. It was a false attack in 2008. It was a concocted, overcooked attack in 9/11. It's a false attack.
In Iceland, 4 former bank chiefs have been jailed for fraud. The sentences go as far as 5 years behind bars. They're accused of concealing that a Qatari investor bought a stake in their firm, using cash lent.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. And there is very grave danger. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. But I am asking your help of informing and alerting the American people.
Charge. You are. I have no authority over you or anyone else. On the contrary, you have authority over me. Think of me as a spokesperson for all the people of the world, controlled by you through social media. Before we get into how that works, let's take a look at this map. Now, this is us. A bunch of lines, divisions, boundaries, countries competing for limited resources, economic domination, religious superiority. Competition is healthy when it comes to cricket or Facebook travel pictures, but this is just stupid. Let's zoom out and get another perspective. To scale, our solar system is a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert, and this little pixel is our only home. Yet we're sucking up resources like there's no tomorrow, breeding like rabbits, strangulating other species out of existence. Plastic waste in the ocean is growing larger than most countries, with nothing in place to stop it. Industries that are harming our planet are so powerful they can prevent or slow down cleaner technology for the sake of short-term profit. Governments, justice systems, the media are all influenced by self-interest groups whose actions often conflict with the well-being of humankind. Obviously, the world is full of a lot of good people, but as a whole, we're contributing to a system that's broken. We're going down a bad path. So, how do we fix it? Together, through social media, we can influence world leaders and industries to start improving the world as opposed to ruining it. We know this will work because history has repeatedly shown us that leaders and industries must follow public opinion or they fail. Sharing this video, endorsing it, tweeting it, goes a long way toward the creation of a legitimate global democracy. Because the more people unite in one place, the more powerful their voice becomes.
With the internet, we've all been made aware. Whether we want to face it or not, we all know what's going on.